A quick new idea, daily, from the world's greatest TEDx talks. I'm your host, Atossa Leoni, and this is TEDx Shorts. HIV, or human immunodeficiency virus, has been a diagnosable virus for nearly 40 years. And even after years of advanced medication, cultural awareness, and education, many of the early stigmas still linger. Johnathan W. Thurston is a PhD student in English at Michigan State University. As someone living with HIV, he reminds us that despite progress made in other areas, we still need to eliminate the discrimination associated with the virus.
On January 7th, 2015, I was diagnosed HIV positive. Now, back in the early 80s, they didn't have a name for this disease. It was called GRID to begin with, the gay-related immunodeficiency disease. For some people, it was called the 4-H disease because, well, 4 of the major identified risk groups were Haitians, heroin addicts, hemophiliacs, and of course, homosexuals. They came up with the term AIDS fairly early, acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. And this isn't the name of the disease itself. It strictly refers to the last stages of the virus. But now we actually have a name for the virus. It's called HIV, the human immunodeficiency virus. And you know what's crazy? People don't know what HIV looks like. Look at me. It's called being undetectable. It means you cannot detect the virus in my blood. I can't spread it, not through spit, not through sex. Now, as far along as meds have come the past few years, what sucks the most about HIV isn't really the death rate, not for me and others like me. It's the stigma. It's this cultural scapegoating of this disease as if it's the worst thing a person could possibly get. And that's part of the story I want to share with you tonight. In thinking about stigma, one of the major cases of stigma is stigma by law, what's called criminalization. Criminalization here means the process by which people in power, politicians, law enforcement officers, lawyers, the media, treat people living with HIV as an active threat to human society. You see, right now, the current laws for disclosure focus in on this fact that if you were going to have any kind of sexual contact with someone, be it kissing, groping, whatever, you have to disclose your status to that person. On one hand, this makes sense, right? It's how we could stop HIV from ever spreading, right? Well, it's a bit more complex than that. One study showed that 15.6% of people who engage in risk activities and refuse to get tested know that they should be tested. But it's only illegal if you know you have it. You can't be committing a crime if you haven't been diagnosed yet. Furthermore, these laws ignore that undetectable even exists. Statistically, as numerous doctors have stated, you have a greater chance of contracting HIV from someone who says and believes they're negative than from someone who is HIV positive undetectable. This means that the current laws punish people who are healthy and taking their meds over people who refuse to get tested. That means I am considered a person who poses a health risk to all of you. There have been cases of people sentenced to over 30 years in prison for spitting on someone while HIV positive, what the judge and jury have called attempted murder, even though spit can't transmit HIV whether you're undetectable or not. One HIV-positive undetectable man a few years ago here in Michigan was transferred from a minimum security prison to a maximum security prison for having oral genital sex with an inmate. Now, another part of stigma comes from the general population, not just people in power. Where I get it the most is on dating apps. You know, apps like Tinder, Grindr, Scruff, OkCupid even. And I get messages like these. Sorry, not into disease. Why are you on here? You're just going to infect everyone. Not into filthy sluts. And I wish people like you would just go kill yourselves. Now, this first guy, he is using a rhetoric of responsibility. He's saying that any person with any kind of STI should just never have intimacy again. And he's not alone in that. I once had a roommate a few years ago who said to me, well, if I were you, I just wouldn't have sex anymore. Just saying. As a result, I now hate the phrase, just saying. This next guy, he is calling me a slut. It's a common misconception that you have to be sexually promiscuous to contract HIV. A relative told me I should have kept my legs closed. A coworker told me it's what I got for being gay. And yet I contracted HIV from a closed, monogamous, romantic relationship, not a hookup. I've received 400 messages just like this one from different people, different apps, different cities, different states. I've gotten it from people in their 20s, people in their 60s. And you better believe it's been tough. Right now, suicide is one of the leading causes of death. Now, I tell you all this because it's the general public that needs to hear these things, to hear that people living with HIV are doing just that. We are living. Having sex with us is some of the safest sex you'll ever have. Knowing us, you will know some of the most compassionate and aware people ever. I say aware because we are aware of our own history. We are aware of the distinction between life and death and how thin that line is and how great it feels to have one pill we take once a day to keep that line in place. If you, someone without HIV, can learn that saying things like full-blown AIDS, are you clean, and drug or disease-free are harmful and offensive, we can start to fight stigma. If you know someone living with HIV or someone who's just been recently diagnosed with HIV, let them know that they are worthy of life, that they matter, that their existence matters. Let them know they are worthy of liberty, that they're not criminals or biohazards. And let them know that they are worthy of love. Just saying. We can create a world that is free of stigma, a place where people living with HIV can live their lives as fully and as full of love as possible. I know we can get there. I'm positive.
The TEDx talk you just listened to was recorded at a TEDx event in East Lansing, Michigan. All TEDx events are independently organized by volunteers who believe in TED's mission of ideas worth spreading. Special thanks to the organizing team at TEDxMSU. Want to listen to more TEDx talks? Explore the entire archive on the TEDx YouTube channel. I'm Atossa Leoni. Thanks for listening, and see you tomorrow.